Nice to see you up here.
Good to see you always.
So I don't want to tell people what you did in terms of reorganizing for content at Intel and reorganizing your marketing department. I'd rather people heard from you what you did and why you did it.
Sure, well, I'd love to say that I had this incredible vision of the role of content and how important it was going to be. But really, I started with the fact that having paid media and social media under me, more and more I was seeing synergies and crossover, and that it really didn't make sense to think of them as distinct groups. Particularly, David talked about the importance of online, and we actually shifted well ahead of the curve of our paid media, running much more percentage online than the average company. So we started with understanding the role and the importance of doing this and pulling these teams together, and then content clearly became an important part too, as we looked at the fact that traditional ad formats didn't necessarily work for the new kind of channels that we're pursuing.
Mm-hmm. Can you be a little bit more specific about what organizational changes you made within the marketing division of Intel?
Sure. So you'd mentioned a couple different models that companies are following, and we're hybrid, and we looked at actually two. One is the editorial review board, where I looked across my team, and I have a strategy team, and then I have an integrated media team. How do they work together in addition to other content producers across the company? I include the geography teams as well as business units and other groups in the development of editorial roadmaps and the role of content in reaching our end users. The other piece that we created is we developed an infrastructure for Intel, iq.intel.com, which is our own publishing channel. And that fits into one of your other models where we have an editor-in-chief and we have a series of editors and publishing partners where we control the development of content and are able to have our own channel where through social media and the number of interactions we have actually dictate what content flows to the top of the channel.
So you mentioned social media in the context of content, and the two are very closely linked, as is increasingly advertising. Which leads and which follows? Do you have a hierarchy of marketing channels or of content, paid, owned, earned media?
The way I think about it, the most important piece is integration. And your content, developing a piece of content is not an end desired action. Content really should be, and we talked a little bit about this in the past, my team talks about it as an onion. Content should be about an extended journey and how it all works together. In some cases, we use standard advertising formats. You can take a TV commercial and put it on YouTube. In other cases, you need still photographs and captions for Instagram and Pinterest. You need GIFs, you need so many different things. So we try to look at how do all the different content elements we produce lead to a bigger story and a deeper engagement and just not a one-off. One of the things I tell my team is I hate random acts of marketing. When people go out and they just develop content for the sake of this is a really cool idea, I'm going to throw it out there. And for some of your examples where different departments are responsible for different channels and different pieces of content, you end up with a mess.
You end up with a mess, but we were talking about this a bit offline yesterday. Human nature involves being a bit territorial and, a bit, there are turf wars in organizations, let's be honest. So how do you foster this collaboration? Do you incentivize it? Is it through meetings? Is it through knowledge sharing? It's very difficult to get people to let go of Instagram if they've owned Instagram, and that's just one very, very small example, and set content free and let somebody else pick it up and run with it.
I know many of my peers definitely struggled with that, where PR is social or other organizations have different pieces, and how does marketing pull it together? We've been lucky in that as we've approached it at Intel, we've done some of these things in almost a covert manner. I started a social media team 5 years ago, and it wasn't a big announcement and a big request for budget and headcount. It was taking a very senior person and just kind of quietly moving resources around and coming out later on once we've made progress. We've been able to talk about the benefits of the team, the actions that we've had, the same thing. And by doing that, by being able to first prove yourself and highlight wins then it's much easier to get others to collaborate with you because they see you as a situation where you're already leading and how can I be part of that successful team, versus starting out and who's going to fight over, I want responsibility for this versus you. So to take leadership and get out of the box first and prove some success.
If you were to advise the audience strategically, tactically, in terms of organizing for content in their own organizations, what would be, let's say, the first, second, and third pieces of advice that you would give to them?
I think today, how are we in time?
I'm checking. It's very difficult to see our clock. We're pretty good.
Okay, so if I need to cut it short, just yell. You know, the phrase that started a couple years ago, brands as publishers, I think everyone in the room probably can say, we know what that means and we're actually acting on it. So I think it's important that we actually move beyond the idea of brands as publishers. It should be part of our regular mantra today as marketers. And my suggestion is that we think more about the network that we're trying to build. The importance of your network is critical, and content plays a very singular role at the center of that. And let me elaborate a little bit. I think about the network we have with certainly our paid advertising and our normal social channels, how we leverage Facebook and Twitter and all those things. I look at the role our partner relationships have played for us in the co-development of content, as well as the distribution. So you think about both the development of the content, but don't forget the importance, because it's at the equal level, the amplification and how you scale that content. And working with some partners, we've done things such as, how many people have heard of the Creators Project? Just curious. Okay, a couple. Working with Vice, I think we had someone from Vice in the audience here. Working with Vice, we developed the Creators Project, which was a program to celebrate the beauty and synergy between art and technology. And what it did is it opened up a whole new field of content development and new partners and artists and musicians that we never would have had exposure to before. So it allows us to expand our publishing channel, our network, and then we would able to help promote that content to our existing channel and then explore the new channel. The nature of our business. We sell products, but our products are inside someone else's product. So I can't look at data, sales in and out data the way a lot of marketers can. Working with our partners has been a really important part too of how do you amplify the brand and develop content. Toshiba is a great example. One of our OEM partners, they produced a series of videos called The Beauty Inside, which strictly ran on digital and online, and they actually won a Daytime Emmy Award this summer. So working with partners, you develop a different kind of content, and you also tap into their networks, and then you mutually benefit from the ability to both share and continue to expand.
So obviously we have to demonstrate the value of creating and disseminating all of this content and the value of the partnerships. How are you measuring success in demonstrating it?
Great. First of all, I want to not lose the point that having a content strategy is critical. It gets back to my early comment about random acts. And I think it's real important as all the marketing and the organizations become so excited by the idea of content and doing these cool things and wanting to be in a video that David shows at one of his presentations. But you've got to start with a strategy, and that's really critical. In terms of how we track and measure effectiveness, it's actually a wonderful thing for us at Intel. I mentioned we don't have access to sales out data, which has been really hard to figure out what's effective and what's not. So actually, social interactions and tracking content has become critically important. And we're not perfect. We're still building out the systems and the infrastructure to manage it effectively. But we've talked a lot about internally going beyond the click. It's not about a click-through rate. Actually, we've done some studies, and in one of the pilots we ran, 65% of the activity that we could measure back to content being viewed and shared were from people that never clicked on the ad at all. So there's wonderful tools, and we probably have some partners in the room that are producing these that are allowing us to really look at content in the center of how we measure effectiveness, and it's how content is shared, how it's acted on, the role of different pieces of content in terms of ultimately leveraging to a change in behavior action.
Nancy, thanks so much for sharing all of this with us. Intel is a company that is deserving of so much respect in terms of content innovation. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here.